And I'm Lindsey Keith. Well, Sean, it was another violent weekend across the country, unfortunately. But thankfully, the two Los Angeles sheriffs that were shot in their patrol vehicle are expected to survive. And Sheriff Alex Villanueva has called their double survival a miracle, a double miracle. The shooter walked up to the patrol vehicle while they were parked at a Metro rail station in Compton and shot them multiple times. One of the officers was luckily able to call in for help still.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that this happened in broad daylight and that this hasn't sparked more outrage. It was miraculous that they survived. But what happened next, Lindsey, was almost more appalling. Protesters tried to block ambulances from entering the hospital. They sat outside chanting, "I hope you die." It was unbelievable. I want to bring in the former chief of the Boston Police, Dan Linskey, to talk about this. Chief, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
I don't know where to start with this, Chief. They shoot police officers in broad daylight, walk up. One of them is a young woman who has a young daughter. They escape miraculously, or one of them does, to call for help. And then people try to block the entrance of the hospital and stand outside chanting, "I hope you die." What is going on in the world, Chief, that this is acceptable?
Well, we have had so much anti-police rhetoric where, everyone in law enforcement is being painted with a broad brush, that they are involved in violent activities and police the communities in a oppressive manner. That's just not true. And it's that same type of rhetoric we saw years ago where we saw the two New York officers very similarly attacked. Unfortunately, they succumbed to their injuries, Officer Ramos and Lou, while sitting in a New York police car, the same exact facts and circumstances, when we saw individuals who were using protests and issues around the country to engage in violence and to dehumanize police and trying to have people take offensive action against them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's so amazing is we've seen so many in the country express outrage about people who had issues with police officers and violence and such. There isn't that kind of protest. There isn't that kind of outrage right now, which just blows me away that you're watching somebody walk up and get shot. The sheriff had to tweet out to the protesters blocking the entrance and exit of the hospital emergency room, yelling, "We hope they die," referring to these two police officers that were ambushed. Do not block the entries to the exits of the hospitals. I mean, people's lives are at stake when ambulances can't get through. I mean, the idea that the sheriff has to put out a tweet to say, "Please don't block the entrance and exit of the hospital," is just something that I never thought I would see in this country.
It's maddening. It's the type of actions and activities that terrorists in other countries use, where they attack hospitals as tertiary targets after doing an attack. And it's not just the police officers whose ambulance couldn't get in that hospital. Anyone who had a heart attack, any citizen, any protester who was injured and needed to be hospitalized couldn't receive the medical treatment that they needed. In war, hospitals are protected by the Red Cross and others, and to have individuals show up and try and shut down a hospital that's offering care to two 14-month rookies of the PD who were, have new officers, newly trained. They've got they probably received all of the new training that we were requiring officers to go through to this day. I don't know of any bad reputations they have. They were sitting in their car minding their own business when they were attacked and someone tried to kill them and take them away from their families. And to delay and to protest outside the hospital is disgusting and disturbing.
I get it. Every industry, every profession has bad apples. As you pointed out, these folks did nothing. They sat in their car. They're new to the force. I mean, I guess the question I have for you, Chief, is what do we need to do to get back to a sense of normalcy? Do you need leaders of both sides of the political spectrum say, hey, we've got legitimate issues with police departments and trainings and some bad apples, but this kind of behavior is never acceptable? What needs to happen to get things back to where they should be?
Sean, that's exactly it. We need leadership on both sides. And we can't have these leaderless organizations that are going around. We need people to step up on both sides to not just talk at each other, but to actually get together and listen to each other and to make sure we're working on a common challenge together. By executing police officers in the police car, if anyone thinks that's going to help reduce the tensions with police officers and communities, especially communities of color, they are sadly mistaken. the more police officers are on the defensive and fearful, the more it's us versus them mentality. And we need to get away from that on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a police officer walking down the street right now. You're thinking, I've got to be able to walk into danger to help people, but now I have to worry about my own personal safety because I don't know when I'm going to get jumped, stabbed, or shot. Chief, thank you for coming. I appreciate you sharing your input with us once again. Look forward to having you back soon. All right. Well, President Trump reacted to the shooting of the deputies at his rally last night in Nevada. Take a listen.
So Biden wants to appease domestic terrorists, and my plan is to arrest domestic terrorists. Okay? And we also believe that if you murder a police officer, you should receive the death penalty, and that's something that's very important.
All right. Well, in fairness, Joe Biden has condemned the attack of the officers, but has now turned the incident into a gun control issue. Well, our next guest is running for Congress as a Republican in California's 26th district. She has criticized her opponent for not speaking up about the shooting, tweeting the following: "This is what happens when this anti-police culture is condoned and encouraged by politicians. At Rep. Brownlee and her cohorts have not publicly condemned this behavior. These officers' blood is on your hands. Hashtag California 26, hashtag Black the Blue, hashtag Blue Lives Matter." Joining us now is Ronda Kennedy, that candidate from the 26th district that I just spoke to. Ronda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I just asked Chief Linskey that this requires bipartisan leadership. You're running in this district. I get it's not necessarily where it happened, but this is a time when all leaders should be condemning this. And let me ask you, I mean, so right now your opponent has said nothing. Is that right?
Nothing. She's been silent. She had plenty to say about George Floyd, but nothing about number officers in attack.
Interesting. You know, this incident, when I was scanning around the different news channels and surfing the web, did not really get what you would have expected to be a ton of media coverage, nationally speaking. Is the media coverage different in California than what we are seeing here in Washington, D.C. or nationally?
Absolutely. They like to hide these types of acts because it doesn't fit their narrative. I mean, it's terrifying. If someone could publicly go up and attempt to execute two police officers, the public isn't safe. I mean, they would have no problems with shooting just a member of regular society if you can try and murder police officers. It looks like something that would happen in a third world country.
Yeah, the thing that, and I brought this up with Chief Linskey, I can't believe that there are not more people expressing outrage about this. And I just don't think that we've gotten to a place that if this had happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, people would be out there rallying to their support, talking about this. And yet the outrage is scant, and it seems to be coming from only one side of the political aisle.
Yeah, it does. And what happens is it's actually condoning this type of behavior. I mean, when you have representatives in Congress and in the Senate, and when you have like a presidential candidate, vice president candidate like Kamala Harris, who actually encourages this type of violence, it emboldens these people and encourages them to commit heinous acts like this, and to stand outside and block the entrance to the to the hospital. It's just outrageous. I mean, they should all be arrested. I mean, I don't know why they're not in handcuffs right now and being hauled off. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, that baffles me. The idea that that is somehow acceptable. Somebody is trying to get the medical attention they need and you're blocking them. Joe Biden, as I said, did denounce this, but he also put out another tweet that says the following: "Weapons of war have no place in our communities. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines." Ronda, what the heck is he talking about?
Who knows what Joe Biden is talking about? I don't think Joe Biden knows what he's talking about. I mean, they would grab any opportunity to try and ban any type of weapon. We have a Second Amendment right, and actually when they closed the gun stores here in Ventura County during the stay-at-home orders, I actually filed a federal lawsuit that forced the gun stores back open. I'm a practicing attorney and a constitutionalist, but they'll take any opportunity, and it's just disgusting for them to use the tragedy of these officers, instead of uniting together and going after the perpetrator, they're just taking advantage and using it for more gun control.
And just to be clear, it was a handgun that did this, not a high capacity magazine, not an assault rifle, not anything of the like. It was a handgun. That's what's. I mean, they are literally twisting it any way they can to get something there. Anyway, Ronda, thank you for joining us. Best of luck in your race, and thanks for standing up for these police officers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, coming up, Mark Lauder of the Trump campaign is going to join us. He's going to talk about the latest controversy in Nevada regarding mail-in voting. Then some say that Netflix has gone way too far in featuring a film about underage sexuality. Indiana Congressman Jim Banks is calling for the Department of Justice to take action. He's going to join us. And then later, we're going to talk to a gym owner from San Francisco. The government there finally allowed her and similar businesses to open today. But is it a case of a little too late?